Now, Washington's Department of Children, Youth, and Families, DCYF, has lost a bid to have a lawsuit against their agency dismissed. So that case is going to be moving forward. At the same time, DCYF is now amending a policy, in fact, this month, amending a policy that was a requirement for foster parents in the state of Washington to embrace where the state has gone with gender ideology, pronouns, and the like. If required them to sign a document that said, if there's a child in my home that's a boy but wants to be living like a girl, called a girl, different name, different pronouns, you have to embrace that policy. Well, this Christian couple refused to do that and they lost their license, but appealed. Lawsuit then subsequently filed in 2024 by Alliance Defending Freedom on behalf of this couple, Shane and Jennifer DeGrasse. Had the opportunity to interview them a couple of years ago when this case was first filed, and have followed this with some interest moving forward. I didn't realize that things have been kind of on hold while DCYF moved to have the case dismissed. But they lost that bid last week, and the case is now moving forward. I had a conversation yesterday with Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel Johannes Vidmam Delphonse. I said his name right. That's the only time I'm going to say it, but he taught me how to pronounce it. Here's some of that conversation with ADF.
They were foster parents for 9 years in the state of Washington and cared for 4 different children over a period of 9 years, including 2 children who they cared for long periods of time. In 2022, when they sought to renew their license, they encountered a new DCYF policy, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which explicitly said that foster parents had to agree to use the child's chosen name and pronouns no matter what. Otherwise, they couldn't qualify as foster parents. They told DCYF that they would lovingly care for any child, but they didn't want to use inaccurate pronouns, and DCYF refused to accept their application. We sued. DCYF backtracked and said, we'd love to take your application, just fill out this waiver form. And they went through the entire process, which it ended up taking over a year. And then DCYF ended up putting arbitrary restrictions on their license, stating that they couldn't care for any child long term if the child was over 5 years old. They couldn't accept emergency placements. They had to take training on LGBT topics, which in our view was intended to change their religious beliefs, and other arbitrary restrictions that not only discriminated against the DeGrasses, but we also felt were deterrents to any other religious families to apply to become foster parents in the state.
Now, according to the most recent numbers that I could find, 2025 statistics, there are about 4,800 kids in the foster care system. Many of these kids are, taken from their biological parents for whatever period of time. Many of them are placed with relatives who are their foster caregivers, but there are about 2,300 foster parents that are not family, not relative care placements. Um, those numbers are certainly down from what they were years ago. How much the gender ideology policy and being forced to sort of abandon maybe your own religious principles has played into that is unclear. But as a result of this lawsuit and pressure on DCYF to do away with this policy, and allow people to have their religious objections because it's their First Amendment right to have those religious objections, they are currently amending the policy. I reached out to DCYF on this exact case. I said, I want your reaction to the fact you lost your hope to get this case dismissed, and what is the current policy? And I did receive a response back. We'll put that up for you. Um, Citing the current, Washington Administrative Code, the current WAC, and that number's up there. They say it's currently being revised. DCYF received public comment on proposed changes as part of the rulemaking process. That was an email statement from DCYF's Director of External Communications, Nancy Gutierrez. And then I went on to press her further about the policy change, and she said, "We are reviewing public comment during the month of May. We will have a better idea regarding the timeline and changes once that is complete." I read that to mean the current policy requiring this gender ideology adoption for foster parents remains in place. She didn't say otherwise, but as a result of this lawsuit moving forward now, in fact, this state agency is moving to revise its policy. So stay tuned at the end of this month when they review all the public comments they received. I expect the adoption of a new policy, and we'll let you know what that is.